Okay, there's breakfast. I always feel like it's so pretty, and then I ruin it with all of the nutrition, namely flax seeds right there. Cut up bananas, thawed out frozen mango. I think a peach and a few strawberries fell out of the frozen fruit bag too. I soaked some oats just in plain old water with some goji berries, put those on top, and then a couple of tablespoons of flax seeds over here on the side, freshly ground up. And this is going to hit the spot for me this morning. I'm exceptionally nervous about eating in my favorite shirt, so I may have to go tuck myself away somewhere and put my bib on. Hold on.
What you doing, Bugs?
Oh, now you stop. Yeah, okay.
It's not your breakfast. It's not for you. It's for me.
Okay, I'm gonna go eat my fruit bowl. All right, you guys, so last week we talked about letting go of calorie counting and keeping track of how much we're eating and restricting the amount that we eat, and instead replacing that practice with listening to our own natural hunger. I know that this idea sounds really simple, but unfortunately, or for better or worse, I know from my own experience and from a lot of the comments that I get from you guys that listening to our hunger isn't that easy. It's an idea that's gotten really bungled up. And in my experience and in the course of the research that I've done in trying to understand my own issues with listening to my hunger, I have realized that this happens for pretty much one of two reasons. The first reason is that we are really disconnected from our bodies. Pretty much from infancy, external forces have dictated when, where, and how much we are supposed to be eating. And I mean, these external circumstances, it's not like they're evil or maligning. They're just tools that help us to stay in our modern schedules and get things done in our modern world. There's nothing inherently wrong with them, but they have certainly influenced our ability to listen to hunger. On top of that, you have the diet and the fitness industries that have all of these just sincerely screwed up ideas about how much we should be eating, when we should be eating, and the types of foods that we should allow ourselves to eat. And I assume you've seen some of my other videos. You know I'm not a big fan of those ideas. But with a little bit of awareness, I feel that these two issues can be pretty easily overcome. You know, we can just be aware that if I get hungry and it's not quite lunchtime, I'm still allowed to eat. And if I get hungry, but I've already maxed out my calorie limit for the day, I'm still allowed to eat because my body knows better than someone who came up with an erroneous number of calories that I'm allowed to eat. But there's another factor that has led to disconnect from our bodies that is a little bit more insidious and difficult to deal with. And that is the fact that food is one of the most readily available, easiest to find, most socially acceptable form of anxiety management that a lot of us have access to. When uncomfortable feelings come up for us that can cause anxiety, fear, shame, panic, anything like that, it is incredibly easy to replace those really uncomfortable sensations with a feeling of fullness. Eating more food than our body needs in a single sitting fills us up, and it creates sensations in the body, and it creates thought processes in the mind that really easily eclipse other bodily sensations and other mind processes. And so I certainly know from my own experience that it is so effective for me to stop what's going on in my brain and cancel out the really hard feelings that I'm picking up on in my body simply by stuffing myself silly with food. And I think that this is such a beautiful coping mechanism that so many of us have picked up because it's relatively safe. Like, we can do this in the comfort of our own home. There's very little risk to it. There's very little societal stigma to this form of coping. And I don't judge anyone for doing this because just flat out, so many of us live in families that refuse to discuss hard emotions. They don't leave any room for us to be full, dynamic human beings. And so when we're in these situations in which our full selves are not welcome, eat it. Like, it's so easy. It makes so much sense. Our bodies are so smart to have come up with this coping mechanism. And so as we're talking about numbing our physical sensations and emotions with food, don't be hard on your body. Don't be hard on the coping mechanisms that you've developed. They're really effective. They make a lot of sense, and they have probably helped you to survive some really difficult moments in your life. So perhaps we're ready to let go of those, and we can, because maybe they're not serving us as well anymore. But I also do know that throughout this process for me of opening myself up and inviting in the sensations of hunger and all of the other sensations that come with that, there have been many times when I haven't been able to handle what ended up coming up. The feelings were too hard. I didn't have the time to deal with them, or I felt like I wasn't in a situation where I was safe to deal with those types of feelings. And so I ate them. Again, I used my coping mechanism and I ate my darn feelings and it made myself go numb, and it was super effective. And I'm not going to judge myself for that anymore. So if you are in a place where you are ready to connect more with your body and invite the sensations into it, including hunger, do be prepared that more is probably going to come up. Unfortunately, we cannot selectively numb the bodily sensations and emotions that we feel, and so if we invite in hunger, if we decide that we're ready to learn from hunger, often a lot of other feelings burst through the door with it. Be really kind to yourself through that, and don't judge yourself if you choose to use your normal coping mechanism to deal with it, which is to suppress it by eating more than you might need. I know a lot of people can be confused about the idea of tuning into my body. I don't even know where to start with that. What are you talking about? So there are a lot of practices, you've probably heard of them. Yoga and mindfulness meditation are two of the more classic forms of these practices of tuning into the body. I found a really basic, easy yoga practice to be a great way to learn about bodily awareness and to get myself into a safe space where I was surrounded by other people who were kind of doing the same thing, and I had a chunk of time marked out for this yoga class, and so that's just what I was there doing. I was really able to commit to that practice and learn a lot about feeling the sensations that were moving through my body. I was then able to take that awareness out of, the yoga classes or the meditation spaces and use those more actively around meal times. And I was able to kind of slowly increase the intimacy I had with the sensations going through my body. I know that a lot of people don't necessarily have the time or the money or the desire to go to yoga classes or mindfulness meditation classes. So even if you can take a small chunk of time, even 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you have time for, set a timer on your phone, and then for that allotted period of time, just sit down. A lot of people find it easier to close their eyes. Some people like to keep their eyes open, and it's easiest to tune into your breath and notice, am I breathing fully? Is my breath stuck in my chest? Are there places where it feels like my ribs don't want to move? What is my diaphragm doing? Is my belly expanding? And just kind of check in with the quality of the breath. Other people do great with tuning into the sensations of their feet on the ground or their hands pressing into each other or on their laps. And then moving on to noticing any other sensations in the body. Is my jaw tight? Is my throat constricted? Where is there pain or discomfort or just nagging feelings? And then eventually we get to hunger. What is my stomach doing? How is it feeling? Do I feel like I'm starting to get hungry? What kind of emotions come up when I start to get hungry? I know I used to kind of panic when I started to feel hungry because it was like, oh no, oh God, I'm gonna have to eat. Will I be able to make myself stop eating? I'm gonna eat too many calories. What if I gain weight? Oh my God, I'm gonna be fat and miserable and alone for my whole life and no one's gonna like me. So a lot can come up. Just be prepared to love yourself through that. Certainly if you have a lot of feelings around food, or if you have dealt with a lot of your emotions or dealt with past traumas by utilizing food as a coping mechanism, a lot of really strong, scary, overwhelming feelings can come up. And so that's why I think that it can be great to work with someone like a counselor or a therapist, even being in a yoga class where you're in a safe, protected space can be really useful. And any kind of guidance that you can find, reach out to, can be really useful. When I was going through this process, I did find it useful to use this book. It's covered in duct tape because I'm me, but it's A Course in Weight Loss by Marianne Williamson. I didn't do the entire thing perfectly, exactly how you're supposed to, but I did go through this book. I did a lot of the exercises that were in it, and it was really helpful in guiding me through my own exploration. So I know that this is available at a lot of local libraries, and it's everywhere on the internet used if you want to get yourself a cheap copy, but this was really useful for me. Once I was able to work through the feelings that I had about calorie counting and my worthiness and how it related to my weight and the ways that I had been using food for most of my life to manage my feelings and my emotional expression, it felt a lot safer to tune into my body, and it felt a lot safer to pay more attention when I ate my meals. I noticed as I started this that my meals were usually quite frantic, and my body and my mind would start to freak out because after so many years of part-time restriction and then part-time binging, my meals turned into this fearful thing of, will I be able to stop myself from eating, or is this going to turn into a full-on binge that makes me hate myself and dampens my really hard emotions that I'm dealing with? And so being mindful during meals was really difficult at first. But these practices do really build on each other. The more you're able to stay present with yourself, the more you're able to be really compassionate and kind and understanding with yourself, the more you're able to make room for the validity of these coping mechanisms that you have used, the easier it is to stay present. The second big impediment I've seen to us being able to trust our hunger and tune into our bodies is that a lot of the foods that we are eating today are purposefully designed to confuse our hunger cues. So our bodies are so cool. They have so many different ways of monitoring the amount of food that we're eating, the number of calories that we're taking in versus the number of calories that we need, monitoring the macro and the micronutrients that we're taking in. I've even read some research that there's some kind of like counter keeping track of how many times we chew and the quality and volume of the swallows that we take. Our bodies are just so much more complex and amazing than we realize. And they're very, very competent at keeping track of the food that we're eating and comparing that to the food that we need. But this only works with real food. I really enjoyed reading this book, The Pleasure Trap, because it went into great detail about the number of ways that our bodies are capable of taking care of us and determining how much food we really do need and asking for that amount of food. Our body's natural food intake regulating mechanisms do not work with processed junk food because food engineers have purposefully designed processed foods to confuse our hunger cues so that we will eat as much of their product as possible. And so when we're talking about processed foods that have had the fiber and lots of their water content and a lot of their nutrients removed, it is not possible to trust your natural hunger cues. These foods are purposefully misleading. And so, of course, you can probably guess the solution that I've found is to stick to eating predominantly whole plant foods as much as is possible and practical and palatable. If you guys have watched my other What I Eat in a Day videos, you know I mostly stick to whole plant foods, but I also enjoy certain processed foods, and I certainly enjoy using some condiments on my food. But I have noticed that if I stick to predominantly whole plant foods, I get the bulky fiber and the high water content that I need to stretch out my stomach in a really pleasant, satisfying way. I get access to all of the nutrients that I need to fulfill my nutrient receptors and prevent any deficiencies that can cause nagging cravings. I get to chew my food a lot and get that really satisfying mouthfeel. I get to have really satisfying swallows of food, and it's just awesome and liberating and delicious. And I've noticed over, the span of the many, many years that I've now been doing this, that my body just continues to get more and more adept at asking for what it needs from whole plant foods, okay? So if we can work on connecting to our bodies and eating biologically appropriate foods, then we can begin to tune into our natural hunger and our natural need for nutrition, and we can begin to trust our bodies a lot more. It's not an overnight process. This takes time, and you get out of it what you put into it. I know that there will probably be more questions. You guys are welcome to leave those down below. I will do my best to get to those as I'm able. And I did make an Instagram post earlier. You guys left a lot of questions there, and so I'm going to do a separate Q&A video that will be uploaded at about the same time as this one, so you can pop over there and listen to that Q&A video if you want to continue the conversation. That said, I am starting to feel pretty hungry, so I'm going to go get myself some lunch. It's also getting really freaking hot in here. Yep, I have started sweating through my adorable cotton shirt. Dang it. There is lunch. I have some greens. It's just like a standard lettuce. I don't know. My farmers dropped it off yesterday and I appreciate it. Then I have some quinoa that I cooked, and then I just sprinkled a little bit of curry powder, a little bit of salt, and I think I put some canned corn in there because Levi legit loves his canned corn, and I was trying to make him happy yesterday because he's working so freaking hard and it's so hot outside. Anyway, and then a little chickpea salad with fresh tomatoes, carrots, cucumbers would have been really good, but I didn't have any, and cilantro would have been really good, but I didn't have any of that either. I have some sunflower seeds sprinkled on top for their wonderful vitamin E and other micronutrients, and this will do it for me for lunch. I'm gonna go eat it in front of a fan, and hopefully the quinoa will not blow away as I eat it. I will see you guys for dinner. dinner is beautiful. They're kind of like falafels. I have a ton of fresh veggies, some kale, cabbage, red onion, tomato. Hi, honey. Do you want your head in the video? Some of our oil-free curry fries, a little bit of quinoa around the back there, and then I made these really yummy little, I don't even know what to call them, if they're like balls or nuggets, or the recipe for the soy ball nuggets, whatever you want to call them. It's down below in the description box. And when Levi got home, he was really dehydrated and I was pretty dehydrated, so I made us a smoothie with some frozen fruits and tons of water and blended up ice, and it was super delicious. And
That's mine.
ooh, wow. I think yours looks prettier than mine. Don't worry, babe. I got your balls.
I got yours.
I was trying to be nice and catch your balls.
Fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What's that over there?
I did that to my mom once with a pancake and it actually worked.
I did that to you many times and it worked.
All right, you guys, that will be everything that I ate today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And as always, until next time, make better choices for yourself. Nobody's gonna do it for you, and take really, really good care of your wonderful selves. I will see you guys very soon. Bye.
Big girl. Oh my god.
Why is she staring at you? I like it. It's like Anne Shirley, circa 1984. Anyone else Anna Avonlea fan? No, just me.